Welcome to the ultimate Freepik AI guide. In this video, I'll teach you how to use every single feature inside of Freepik. But you might think Freepik is only good for AI images. No, you can create sound effects, color grade videos, isolate audio, change camera angles, and a bunch more incredible use cases that you'll only learn by sitting down and watching a video just like this one. I've been using Freepik for the last 2 years for my video editing, which has accumulated over 650 million views. And I can confidently say that right now, Freepik is the best in class. I know this isn't sponsored unlike other videos on this tool. So whether you're a complete Freepik beginner or you've been using this tool for a while, I'm sure you'll find something that's very useful by the end of the video. So sit back and block out some time in your calendar because you are about to master Freepik AI. So when you open up Freepik, it's going to look something like this. Now there's two main ways that you can actually access your tools. Number one, you can click up here to all tools where you can see everything that we can do inside of Freepik, or on the left, you can hover over all tools and we have access to everything again. The four main categories are image, video, audio, and others. Every single one of these I'm going to cover in this video. So we're going to start with images. So hover over all tools and let's click on image generator. On the left is the box where you can actually generate images. And just underneath images, the first box we have is browse templates. It's basically just image effects that you can add onto any image that you generate, but we're not going to worry about that for now. The box right underneath browse templates says model, and this is where you choose the image model that you want to actually generate your image. So we can do auto, which I would never recommend. We can do all models down here, and there's 35 models available. Or, and this is probably my favorite Freepik AI feature, and this is why I recommend this tool, multiple, meaning you can choose multiple different AI providers to generate an AI image with different providers. If you want to experiment, and if you're not sure which models are good, choose the multiple options and pick a few models, see what's the best image, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose these three models and I'm going to choose Quen down here. Click on save. And then just underneath the model box, we have references. We can choose the style of the image. We can have some character consistency. We can import an object or upload our own custom assets. And just over here on the button add, we can add more stuff such as colors, different cameras, effects, or structure. So I've generated literally thousands of images on Midjourney. And one of my favorite tactics to use is to use styles inside of Midjourney. So I'm going to do the same thing here and I'm going to select on drop or select file in order to choose the style of the image I want. Now, as you can see, Freepik already has a bunch of different styles that you can choose from and pick one you like, but I'm going to use my own style. So I'm going to click on my styles and then click on reference image. And then I'm going to drag an image that I like to the right over here, and I'm going to use this image as a style. So as you can see, we have the style now selected. I'm going to ignore character, but it's basically the same concept. You can drag in your own image and have any character that you want, but I do want my own object. So I'm going to select this. And as you can see, this table I imported, so I'm going to select that as well. Now, the big benefit of using Freepik is the fact that they have a bunch of different stock footage as well. So for example, this table I just imported is an image that I got from the Freepik stock content library. So whatever it is that you want, you can search it up and they're going to have multiple different images that you can download. But okay, we have the style and we have the object that we want included. Now I'm going to click on add and I'm going to select camera, because over here we have multiple different camera styles that we can add, such as a drone shot, 360, portrait, etc. So I'm just going to choose panoramic. And if you're happy with all the effects that you have added, you can go back down to the prompt and now we can begin typing a prompt. So I'm just going to say a man video editing working on a laptop. Super simple prompt. And down here, we can also improve short prompts by selecting this over here, which is basically going to use AI to enhance the prompt that we have selected. And if you want to write a very long prompt and you want to see everything at once, just click down here to prompt editor, which will expand your prompt. And if you think you're bad at writing prompts, there's also this assistant that you can use to help you write a prompt. So we can select add variations, for example. And as you can see, it has updated our prompt. Everything in blue is the stuff that just got added. And if there's something you don't like, you can click on it and there's multiple different options that you can choose from. So for example, if I don't want a rustic wooden bench, I can click on this and I can choose modern minimalist table. When you're happy with the prompt, select apply prompt. And just before we generate our prompt, we can move down to the very bottom where there's just a few more settings. So firstly, this is the batch size, meaning how many images you want to create. Since over here we selected 4 different image models, the batch size automatically went to 4. Now the next setting over here is the aspect ratio. I'm just going to choose 16:9. And then over here is the quality of the image. So once you're happy with everything, you can just click on generate. And as you can see, all of our images are being generated over here to the right. If you don't see this box, by the way, you might be in community or templates. So make sure you just click down here to the left on personal. Okay, our first image is done generating. And as you can see, these are very different results that we got because we used 4 different models. So out of all these images, I think that this one came out the best because it doesn't have the transparent kind of background that we can see in all these other images. So this is the one that I'm going to work with. If you're curious what model this actually was, you can see in the settings on the right over here, this was Flux 2. And so once you're happy with the image, you can of course select it. And then down here, you can see use image. Now, when we expand this, we can see different options. So recreate, as it says in the name, is just going to recreate the image. Upscale is going to enhance the quality of the image. Variations, these are actually very interesting. I'll go over them in a second. Use as style, which is kind of what we just done, where we used this image over here as a style reference. So it's basically going to import this into this box and use as a reference. So I'm not going to recreate it. I'm pretty sure you can imagine what that looks like, but I am going to click on upscale. Upscaling your images is probably one of the most important things that you need to do to get the highest quality results of AI images and videos. And FreePic has some interesting settings that I don't see anywhere else. However, what I recommend all you do is, instead of using this box, I like to click on edit image just underneath it, because this has most of the settings that we just seen, such as upscale down here. And if you want to do more to the image, there's more options basically available. So I can click on upscale and we have the same window that you just seen. Now, when you click on upscale, you have creative and you have precision. Creative is basically going to use more AI features to enhance your image. However, it might sometimes take away some of the realistic details. So it might essentially hallucinate stuff that's not really there. So if you want to make sure that your image is as real as possible, you can click on precision. But I'm just going to select creative for now. Now for model, we only have one model inside creative. And down here, we can choose the preset, which is essentially going to change the settings down here based on what you're trying to get. I'm just going to choose world, scale factor, meaning kind of how powerful you want your upscale to be, and then what you want to optimize for. So I'm just going to choose standard, ultra. Now, if you're unsure what any of these mean, you can simply click on this question mark down here and it's going to explain every single setting for you. But once you're happy with it, once again, you can just click on upscale. So our image is done. As you can see, this is extremely good quality. If you want to zoom out like this, by the way, you can just click on command and then use your scroll to zoom in and out. And if you want to drag around the image, you can just click and hold. But we're done with the upscale, so we can click off of that for now. Now on screen, you can see why it's so important to upscale. The second image came out so much crisper and so much nicer. And now this will allow us to make even better videos when we move on to that section. However, we're still not done with images, because as you can see, there's still a bunch more stuff that you can do. For example, on the very left, if you click on edit, you can of course add any prompt that you want to change something about your image, or you can click down here on visual, click somewhere and then add a comment. And when you do that and send that off, it's going to then create another image with your comment in mind. And as you can see, we have the preview of what we wanted, which is a dog. It was a very basic prompt, hence very basic image, but you can see this is how you can start to customize your image now. But okay, I'm going to click out of that and I'm going to remove this. And now the next section is the one to the right, which is retouch. And you might have seen this a lot, which is basically where you can select something, then you can add a prompt with any change that you want. Or if you just simply want to remove something, you can click down here on erase, and then you can select something that you want to remove and just send it off. And once again, on the right over here, you can see we have settings, which will allow us to select the amount of images that we want to generate with this new replace tool. I kind of like my image, so I'm going to keep it as is. But the next setting down here is resize. I'm pretty sure you know what this is. If you want to extend any corners, you can just do so by clicking and holding, or you can crop it if you want. But to be honest, my favorite AI feature inside of FreePic is Spaces, which I'll cover later in the video, which allows us to have this node overview of the entire project without needing to look through multiple different images all throughout your folder. But to finish off images, we have a few more settings, such as background, where we can remove the background over here. So let's say I wanted to turn this into a PNG, I can just click on remove background and it's going to do just that. Or once again, one of my favorite FreePic features, which is change camera. This is one of the best camera change tools that I've seen in any of these AI websites, because you can visually see how the final output is going to look like. So we have the vertical and the rotation that we can choose from, and this little preview window in the top right is the final output we're going to get. So I'm going to do this and I'm going to kind of position it like so. We can zoom out if we want, choose the batch size and click on generate. And as you can see, this was the before image and this is the after, which is the camera being positioned above the table, which is what we wanted. But okay, once again, I'm going to X out of that because I do want to keep my high quality table over here. Upscale, we already went over, but there's also skin enhancer, which I'll get into later. Now the final setting, adjust, is what you might see in Photoshop, because when you click on it, you can change the lighting, color, tint, grain, rotate it, or add any of these presets. So of course, these are just basic image adjustment features and you can edit them if you want, but if you do so with a high quality image, you're going to get this pop up because the max resolution they allow is 4096 pixels. So we have all these basic settings like exposure and brightness. Then under color, we have stuff like saturation. We can also choose a slightly stronger tint, basic stuff. But just before we move on to videos, there's still more features that you can do inside of images. So if we go back to this panel by just clicking on image generator, you can import a picture of yourself or of any person, click on it, and down here, once again, on use image, we have the same boxes as the last time, but I want to touch on variations because this is very interesting. So if you select this, you can essentially generate storyboards, different ethnicities, different ages, different camera angles, etc. with the same image. So here we have the image selected as I just showed you, and underneath it, we can choose the kind of variation that we want. So reframe, storyboard, people, or custom. So I'm just going to select reframe. And then underneath reframe, we can see we have multiple different perspectives that we might want. So we can only choose 9 at a time. So I'm just going to enable POV, for example, and instead of extreme close-up, I'll just do a wide angle. Down here, once again, aspect ratio, the amount of images you want, and the quality, and just click on generate. By the way, the image of me we're using is just a selfie when I first started landing big clients, which, by the way, if you want to land clients for yourself as a video editor, I made some very comprehensive courses. For example, where I broke down step-by-step how I landed a $2,000 client in this 2-hour-long course, or where I broke down my entire strategy of how I landed all these clients, which by the way, you can see they're verified because of this badge, in the how to land top 1% client section. So if you're interested, click the link down below and you can find out more information about the editing evolution. But going back to FreePic, we can see that we actually generated the complete storyboard. So keep in mind, this was the image that we started with, and all of these are AI generated. Now, the one bad part about this is that I'm not sure what model is being used. I think if this used Nano Banana Pro, these would be way better. But unfortunately, we cannot see what model is actually being used to create these images. It's not even here in settings. And as you can see, the face doesn't look like me at all. And I think these could be much better if Nano Banana Pro was being used. Maybe it is, but I don't think so. Regardless, you can use this for anything you want, such as a storyboard. It's a very handy tool to use. So as you've seen, this is exactly why I like FreePic. It has features that no other AI tool has, and it allows you to create some of the best AI images out there. But now that we have the image, we need to move on to the next section of the video, which is AI videos. So moving on to the video section, you can access this section with a few different ways. Firstly, if you're already in this window, you can just click up here to video, and then you can start playing around with creating a video from scratch if you want. It's pretty much the same as images. The only difference is that you have the start and end frame, but you have your templates, you have your model, prompt, quality, aspect ratio, and all the other stuff that you basically had inside of images. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn the image that we just made, this table over here, into a video. And so there's a few ways to do that. If you hover over it, you can just click on this button right here, which will turn it into a video. Or if you open up the image into the bigger panel, you can click on create video just down here. So we're going to do that. And so what that done is that basically added this image into the start image on this video panel to the left over here. So I'm just going to choose VO 3.1 fast. And again, just like with images, you can select multiple different model providers, or you can browse templates and add any of these effects if it goes with the model that you chose. I'm just going to give it a simple prompt saying camera pans up while it's focused on the table, and just click on generate. So as you can see, our video has generated. If you click on it, as always, just some AI video. This looks really nice though. Very good quality as well. But okay, AI videos are nothing new. This is pretty standard stuff. What is cool, however, is the next stuff I'm going to show you, which is editing these AI videos and all of the different capabilities within FreePic. So if you're happy with your video, just click down here to edit clip, and it's going to bring up a similar panel to the one with images. And so once again, on the left, you have modify. The main difference between this and the image is that down here, we can select the model that we want to use to modify the video with. I think Lucy Edit is pretty good at the moment, so you can choose that. Now, if you click down here on extend, you can actually extend the video as the name suggests. Similar feature to Premiere Pro, nothing special. Upscale, once again, you can use Topaz or Sharper Pro to upscale, which is pretty sick. And you can also enhance the amount of frames per second that the video has. Now, lip sync, this one's interesting because this one never seemed to work for me. I don't know, if it works for you, let me know. But basically the idea behind it is that if you have some character, you can use lip sync in order for the character to talk. But again, this just did not really work for me. Maybe it'll work for you. Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe, because 83% of you guys are not subscribed. And so if you want to see more high quality content like this one in your timeline, by subscribing to the channel, you're going to basically tell the YouTube algorithm, I want to see more content like this. Sound effects is pretty cool. I'm just going to say wind and see if it'll understand by just this little very short prompt. But the idea behind this is simple. If you have a man walking, for example, and you explain that in the prompt, it should in theory synchronize the footsteps of the man to the sound effect of the footsteps. This one actually works pretty good. I tested it with a few different videos. It might still be a little bit out of sync, so if you are trying to get the best quality results, I would just recommend you turn on the audio on VO 3.1, because that's typically very good. But this is also just a very good backup option. Okay, so let's listen to the sound effect I just generated. Okay, I mean, it is wind, so yeah, I guess I got it right. I probably should have specified whoosh, but you get the point. You can generate sound effects inside of FreePic. The next thing you can do is click on trim, which, as the name suggests, allows you to cut the video. Unfortunately, you can't make cuts in the middle, only the start and end. So if you want to do that, you should be using something more advanced like Premiere Pro. Color grading. This is similar to what we just explored in AI images. However, over here we have basically different kind of styles, and then based on the style that you choose, you can choose how much of that style you want, as you can see. But I have a much better way to do color grading for videos that I'll show you in a second. So I'm not going to apply these. I'm going to move on to motion shake. This is interesting. Basically, if you click somewhere, it's going to add a shake. So you can do organic, or you can do urgent, for example, and then if we send it off, that is going to include a shake into our video at the time that we chose. So while that's generating, I'm going to show you the next step, which is audio isolation. So here I have a clip of me speaking. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you, as you can hear, there's some sound effects in the background. So once again, I'm going to import this video, edit clip, and then when you click on audio isolation, this essentially acts as kind of similar to Adobe Podcast, where you can isolate the audio, you can remove background noise and enhance the audio. So you can write your own prompt, or down here you can just click on detected sounds. So for example, we'll choose male speaker voice, and we'll click on send. And so as you can see, we have different layers down here: background, isolated sound, and original audio. And I'm just going to enable isolated sound now. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you the entire process that you can use to... As you can hear, there is no background noise enabled anymore. We can obviously just choose background noise if you want down here and disable this. And then we have the sound effects with a bit of a whisper, which is kind of weird. But yeah, as you can see, this works very good. Those were pretty loud sound effects in this. So typically, if there's just some small noise in the background, this is honestly a good tool to use for audio enhancement. And then finally, down to the very right, we have effects. There's only a few effects over here. You can play around with them if you want. Fisheye stuff, motion blur, and a few other things that you can adjust in the settings down here by choosing the intensity and then clicking on apply. Okay, now the most comprehensive way to edit these videos inside of FreePic is inside of the video project editor, which you can access by hovering over all tools, clicking on project video editor, then you can just create a new project and we have an empty canvas. So firstly, we're going to click on add media and we're just going to add maybe this table, for example, by dragging and dropping it. You can do it straight into the timeline. Now what this allows us to do is basically it removes the need for Premiere Pro for very simple edits such as, you know, stitching clips together. So let's say I want to add this one and this one, I can do just that. Close the media section. And as you can see, we have the two videos right now. Now, if you remember a while ago, I told you I have a better way to enhance colors for our videos. And I was right, because up here you have way more adjustments that you can do to your video. So I'll get into those in a second. Firstly, if this is your first time inside of a video editing panel just like this, it's super simple. Down here you have the timeline where you can click and hold and scrub across your video. Obviously we have our two videos that we imported down here. We can right click on a video to get more options like duplicating it, muting it, reversing it, replacing it, or you can click on use this frame to, and then you can export one frame from this video as an image or create a freeze frame. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do. It's pretty cool. Now, if you select one of these videos, you're going to get more settings over here to the right, like the volume options, the duration, the name, etc. And if you click on design, you can select opacity, for example. Now, one thing FreePic has that I don't really like is redundant features. So over here we have opacity, over here we have opacity. There's a lot of features in multiple different ways, in multiple different places, so you can access them however you like. But yeah, I think that's kind of confusing for beginners because there's just features everywhere, and it might just be easier to include them in, you know, one spot instead of having them in 3 different spots, but whatever. Over here you have clip, design, and then layout, where you can basically change the position of the video, but you can also do that by simply clicking and holding. Now what's also interesting is you can change the order, meaning let's say this video is in front, this video is obviously going to be the video that's being shown because it's above this one. But if you click on the top video, go up here to layout, you can click backwards, and now it basically switched these two videos in the timeline. But once again, we can do that by simply clicking and holding and placing it above the other video. And the last thing in this panel is just the ability to hide or show the video if you want to see the one that's behind it. So I'm going to move this video somewhere like this because I'm going to add a transition in a second, but I want to show you some more settings because up here is where we basically can customize the look of our video. So opacity, you can do a horizontal flip, you can add some sound effects, and basically when you click this panel, you have the ability to add a prompt and generate your sound effects from scratch. And of course you can import sound effects into here as well if you want. Then you have adjustments, which look a lot more similar now to what we had when we had an image. Brightness, saturation, contrast, etc. Crop, pretty straightforward stuff. Effect, filter, which I obviously don't really like, but if you want it, it's there. And blur if you want to add some sort of a Gaussian blur, for example. And if you select one and you don't know how to deselect it, all you got to do is just click on the blur once again, by the way. So yeah, these are some very basic tools for a video editing timeline, for a video editing software. But the thing is that FreePic isn't natively a video editing app. It was originally an app that allowed you to basically download vectors, PNGs, photos for free, and they also had a bunch of different assets. But now they're diving very strongly into video editing projects, into creating these node workflows and a lot of other interesting stuff, which is nice to see. But yeah, so one thing you can do inside of this video editor is when you click here and click on animation, you can basically add transitions between clips. So for example, slide. So when you click on slide, it'll open up this box, and then down here you have loop animations or out animations. So I'm going to choose out, slide, and now if we scroll, you can see that it's going to start sliding out. So if I put this video above this one underneath, this starts sliding out and it just transitions to the next shot. And of course, if you're happy with your video, then you can just click on export up the top right over here. So yeah, there's a lot of features that you can do inside of FreePic Video. And next up, I'm going to show you more audio use cases that FreePic has to offer. So again, hover over all tools. This time I'm going to go to voice generator. And here it's pretty straightforward. You have your model, you have the speaker you want. So for example, we'll click on Adam and we'll click on Alexander, and then you have a prompt. And what's interesting is that it's not just a prompt, right? So you have basically the ability to add a pause. So short pause, then you can type something. And since we have two speakers, we need to make sure that we insert the speaker first, and then we can type in whatever we want. So like, hey, what's up? Then we can add another pause, for example, a longer pause this time. We can add a sound effect by clicking up here to a sound effect. Then we need to add the speaker again. And then after the speaker, we can click here, add some sort of emotion, then add more text, choose the voice style and click on generate. And so now we can see,
hey, what's up?
That was cool.
We have our audio. But yeah, that's just 11 labs. You can generate custom audio if you want, of course. You can also generate custom music over here with 11 Labs or Google Lyria. You just describe the style, mood, etc. and the duration. And probably my favorite audio feature, which is sound effects, which, as you guessed, and as I showed you earlier, you can generate your own custom sound effects. Now, the last tool I want to show you just before we move on to my personal favorite way to actually generate images and create workflows inside of FreePic is going to be remove background. Now, I found that this works very good for images, but just doesn't work as good for videos. Let me show you. If you click up here to tools, you can click on remove background, and then we can select an image like this by just dragging and dropping it. It's very straightforward. You can just click on remove background, and as the name suggests, it's going to remove the background. If, however, you want to remove the background of a video, I would highly suggest you check out Runway because they have a much more powerful background removal tool. So I'd only encourage you to use this for images at the time of this recording at least. But yeah, when you remove background, as you can see, it looks pretty good. So moving on, we have something that's very popular in the AI space, which is this node connection workflow. Let me show you. As you can see, it's a new tool, so you can click on it directly here, or by hovering over all tools and clicking over here. And what this is, it's called Spaces. So we're going to create a new space. Now, I really like how visual this is and how interactive the UI is. But yeah, basically you can choose your first node, pretty straightforward stuff. So we're going to do that. We're going to choose text. And so I'll get into how this works, but let me just type in video editor working on a laptop. We can expand this text, we can add a very long detailed prompt if you want. Now, the whole issue that this is solving is the issue of, let's just go into here for a second, the issue of just having all your assets, all your images all over the place. It's kind of a mess, it's kind of annoying. You need to have it in folders, or you need to just look through your old generations, and it's very hard to, have a good grasp of what it is you're generating, how you're progressing moving forward, especially if you're doing a larger project. If you need a lot of images, a lot of different camera angles, a lot of different styles, color themes, etc., and you want to just have a clean overview of everything. That's where Spaces come in. It's a very visual and interactive UI for understanding what it is that you're creating, how you got to that position, what prompts you used. Let me just show you. So as you can see, we have our text over here. So now any node that you click on, you can see we have another output layer. By clicking, holding and releasing, we have three options: image generator, video generator, and assistant. So if you click on image generator, you can see it says prompt connected because this is now acting as a prompt to this node. So inside of this node, we can now choose the model, the aspect ratio, the batch size, and more settings over here, which I kind of already showed you. Same stuff as last time. And so if you're happy with everything, on the bottom right, you can just click on run, or up the very top, you can click on run, and now it's going to start generating an image with this prompt. Very nice UI. And if you're wondering how I'm clicking around, because if you left click, it just does this. If you want to click around, just use your scroll wheel, click on the middle of it, and that'll kind of bring you around. Or you can select the hand tool down here and also just click and hold around. And as you can see, this generated an image of a video editor working on a laptop. Now here's where it gets pretty interesting, because we can once again, import images of our own. So for example, this style that I use, and now out of this style, we can once again click and hold out of this little box over here, image generator. So that's going to create a new image. And then we can also connect this text to this box. So now we have this prompt and now we have this style. So then we can send that off once again. And now it's going to create the same image, but this time with this style. And as you can see, what's good about this is I can still see this image, I can still see what prompt I used to connect it, but now I'm trying to do the exact same thing with a different style. While that's generating, I can also continue working. So for example, I might click and hold, release, and I might want to do an assistant, for example. And in this assistant, I might say something like, create a color palette of the colors used in this image and send it off. And so as you can see, this is why I use styles, by the way. It just creates very nice, very visual images with insanely simple prompts. This is a very basic prompt, but it's a very good image. And yeah, I have a bunch of different styles inside of the editing evolution as well that you can just download if you want. But yeah, anyway, this assistant has generated now all of the different colors from a color palette. So now what we can do is we can once again click and hold, release, image generator. So now this is aware of the context of the color palette over here. And then we can, for example, click and hold and connect this to this box now. So essentially what I'm doing is just giving each new box context, and it's visual, so you can see what the context is of that box, of the new node. So this new node is connected to this very basic laptop, and it's connected to this color palette. So if we send this off, and so as you can see, now we have very similar colors to this kind of style over here, and a very similar image to this one. And this is the beauty of Spaces. I mean, a lot of tools have released similar UIs, similar features, but this is probably one of my favorite UIs to use for creating more complex AI images. Now, the other settings you have over here are something like video generator, image upscaler, or change of camera. So this is once again this camera change feature that I showed you earlier. I mean, FreePic just has so many tools. It's quite cool to see how much they've evolved, as I said. I mean, just this camera feature alone inside of this nice UI is why this is currently my favorite AI tool in this sort of niche to use for creating AI images. But this is not the only tool that I actually use in my editing workflow. If you're curious to see all of the other AI tools that I use as a video editor, just check out this video. I'll leave a link to it somewhere on screen right now, and I'll see you there.